SEC sit down series. Happy to have Chancellor Donde Plowman from the University of Tennessee join us this afternoon. Chancellor, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. Trey, thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. No, this is great. I'm finally glad we got to get this set up and lots of stuff to talk about. So I really appreciate you taking the
Great.
time and I wanted to hop right in here.
Okay.
For you, looking back over the past year, what was it like navigating the transition between the previous regime at Tennessee over the past year and seeing athletics take the next step?
Right. Well, first of all, when athletics is doing well, when that brand, that's the Power T, when that Power T brand is doing well, the whole university is doing well. And I think it goes the other way too. When the university, when we're achieving things on the academic side of the house, it helps the athletic brand. And for me, this last year, as soon as we hired Danny White as our new athletic director, he just walked in the door with a new energy, ideas, vision, and it just, you could just sort of feel the place lift. And that's been great. And on it, and he's in charge. We're partners. I love working with him. He's a real active member of my cabinet. So I tell people all the time, he's not just athletic director, he's vice chancellor and athletic director, which means he's a campus leader as well as the leader for athletics. So it's been great. I mean, he and I meet regularly in terms of the transition. The first thing he had to do was hire a football coach. So I'm sure he could talk about what that was like. I know how he went about that process. I'm just couldn't be more excited about where we are. There's a great feeling over there in the athletic department. I think you see it on the court, on the field. There's a positive spirit, and that's been fantastic.
But a quick follow-up, was there any kind of nervousness on your part when it comes to having to make that, we're over a year since everything, a new coach and a new athletic director, any kind of nervousness from a chancellor's point of view when it comes to, having to make these decisions in a span of time that, fans are out there asking for, but that you have
Right,
to do it the right way?
right. I don't need, nervousness probably understates it. It's it's a it's a very big decision. What we did a year ago, it's been, it was in January. People forget it's barely a year. Within 1 week, we had a press conference on Monday that was unsettling to everyone. And I was thinking about, that's a big move to make, what we announced that day. So I don't think the word was nervous, but just like really aware of the significance of that kind of a change, and more change for a university that's already experienced a lot of that. And so I that weighed on me like, oh gosh, here comes another turnover. One of the things they asked me to do when I came here was try to provide stability and leadership. And Randy Boyd and I have been really working hard at that to help people feel confident in their leaders. And so here then, in 1 week's time, we have a press conference where we announce a big change in the football staff, the head coach, that the AD was stepping down. And 4 days later, I announced a new AD. That was a speed with which, I'd not have been involved in something that moved that quickly, but I knew it needed to move quickly so we could get to stabilizing the situation and move towards building the culture, the performance that we want, the culture of excellence, the culture of integrity. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a big decision. People ask me sometimes, gosh, didn't you lose sleep over COVID? Uh, COVID was complicated and tedious in terms of logistical planning and about something you didn't know what it was. I didn't lose sleep over that. I lost some sleep over what are we going to do in athletics, to be honest with you. But I feel so good about where we are. So yeah, it was I don't want to say solemn. That Monday of that first press conference was a solemn day.
Right.
But I think it was more about just when things aren't working in athletics, and the thing for a chancellor about athletics, it's all so public, and everyone has an opinion about what you're doing. And everyone, when it comes to athletics, I've learned this in my past from knowing other athletic directors. Everybody thinks they know more than the coach and the athletic director, everybody's got an opinion and they deserve to have one. And nowadays they express them all on social media. So
It's one way to happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's serious, but it's serious because it's important.
Right.
We need that working well, and we need teams that are competing at the highest level and doing it in a way that we can all feel proud about.
And you're speaking of teams here, the baseball had a great run last year. They're having a great run this year already, getting started. And then
Yes.
you look at other sports too. Basketball had themselves a run last year, kind of ended a little early. It was just a lot of craziness going on, and even softball, track and field. We can name them all. But when it comes to like the football program, how did last season and the way that they performed potentially change your outlook on the future of the program? Because it's always first year coach, you're always nervous. You know how it goes.
Right.
But also
Right.
on the field, how did you change your outlook? And financially, how did that change, especially with all the losses that went in over the previous years?
Well, yeah, and when teams aren't winning, ticket sales go down, and more important than that, just the spirit of the fan base takes a hit. And people were, people told me, they just, I think that our fan base felt, they just had so many years of disappointment and feeling like, well, it's never going to happen for us again, just a pessimism. And so that this past first year, what you saw, which is, and I think even with the tempo of that offense, just it was quick that people started thinking, whoa, he said we were going to score a lot of points. I guess we are. And that was sort of the first little brick. And then it was, well, we're winning some games. I'm getting a little more confident. And you saw the kids on the field just playing their hearts out, and you knew we didn't have a full roster. And fans were seeing that and they were expressing it. I remember towards the end of the season, a colleague from the SEC that I work with all the time, wasn't the commissioner, but somebody else, was in town for the game. By the way, SEC officials are at almost all the games, some part of that staff. Yeah. And so he said to me, I was downtown eating breakfast without any of my SEC gear on, so nobody who knew who I was. And he said, the enthusiasm here is just like, I haven't seen it, Donde. It's just off the charts. So a little anecdotal data like that. And I remember near the end of the season, one of the games where Peyton was here, he just said, wow, Chancellor, the feeling, the electric feeling, it's back. And so those are good indicators. But then you have actually objective indicators. Look at what you mentioned, Trey, is true. Like last year, we were the only team in the country that went to a bowl game. I mean, this fall we went to a bowl game. Last spring, we had men and women's basketball in postseason competition. We went to Omaha. There's no other university in the country that did those four things. And on top of that, I went swimming and diving, won a SEC championship, and we're doing well in golf. And so I tell people all the time, they ask me, well, what does it feel like? I said, people tell me it feels good to feel good again. And that's kind of what I hear from people.
How do you, what is the overall look when it comes to financially? So we talked about it, fans needing that buy-in to get back going again. So we see, construction going on at Neyland Stadium to upgrade, but we also saw, and this is understandable. When you have a first-year head coach, a lot of people don't want to buy in yet because they don't want to get their hearts broken. And I think you can understand that. But when it comes to financially, from last year and having to go forward from that, do you see an upward trend on that?
Oh yeah. Well, so look at what happened this year. We had 3 games where we had more than 80,000 in attendance. And we had 2 games where it was right up there. We were filled. Yeah. Those begin to give people look around and say, wow, okay, we're selling tickets. People want to be here. So yeah, our finances, every school took a hit during COVID. We were not affected because we're in the SEC nearly as hard as other schools around the country. We were fortunate. But yeah, our ticket sales, plummeted because we didn't have anybody in the stands. They're back. They're not back as high as they were, but our revenues from ticket sales are getting there. And we're another thing. I think I'm sure you read this. If you look at Thompson Bowling, how many times we sold out this year? That's a big state. That's a big arena.
Yes.
So yeah, the finances are feeling good again. And Danny is started this very bold $500 million campaign. When you talk to Danny, he's done a lot of analysis, he and his team. When you look at it, Danny tells it like this. Tennessee used to be first in a lot of things. We had the first and best softball facility. We had the best football training facility. We had, but we stopped working at that like about 2004 and 2005. And if you track the performance at our competitions, it maps perfectly. I've seen the graphs. And so we have to invest again. And he's making that pitch, his team is, with donors. And we're really excited about how we're doing on that. So all those pieces are starting to fall into place as well.
I'm interested in your take on name, image, and likeness when it comes to college athletics, college football, college basketball, softball, baseball, you name it, track and field, you can get involved in it. We covering this, it's a little bit of craziness over the last couple months. Yeah. And just your thoughts on, where we are right now, and if you think we are going to get some kind of oversight that comes sometime in the next, I don't know, year, maybe 2 years.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. No, yes,
okay. Ma'am. So name, image, likeness. There's aspects to this that are fantastic. I think it's fantastic for student athletes to think about what is my own personal brand. And when my brand, being able to monetize that, I support that. What I'm frustrated with is that there just are no parameters, really. The NCAA's rules are basically follow the law of your state and follow the rules of your campus if you don't have laws in your state. And we got all these states with different laws or now no laws, or so trying to compete nationally, you want to have a level playing field. So I don't know where it's all going to go, and nobody does. And you talk to anybody in this business, and there's a sense of, we know that things need to be better for student athletes in terms of their compensation and being able to start businesses while they're in college. Why shouldn't they be able to do that? Of course they should. But without any parameters, it now is what it seems like. And I was just, I'm with the SEC presidents and chancellors. I was in a 4-hour meeting yesterday. This topic comes up every single time. There is some hope that we could get federal legislation. That seems to be the only way now that we have all these different states, each with different laws. But I don't see that happening in the near term, but I don't have a crystal ball. So I'm disappointed that the NCAA wasn't able initially 4 or 5 years ago to begin to put some parameters around it, but they didn't. And so now it's confusing. It will settle out. I know it will, but I don't want it to settle out in a way that disadvantages so many. Like right now, the NIL is largely about 2 sports, football, men's basketball, some women's basketball, and some other, you get one-offs in different areas. It ought to advantage all of our student athletes, men and women. So it's confusing, and none of us feel good functioning in a world where things don't make sense. And that's a piece of where we are now. I'm proud of the way UT has charged after it. We put together we try to tie together academically, like kids can take a course on NIL and their brand, linking it to our entrepreneurship program. Danny went out and hired a woman who is in charge of all that and trying to really make it work. We're working with a couple of companies to try to help us with that. But it's in some ways the blind leading the blind. We're going to make the best of it. What has to stay center focus is our student athletes. That's what has to stay at the center of it. What's best for them, all of them. So I didn't answer your question very well. It's kind of a mess.
Well, no, and I can tell, and I'm just, with all the big deals that you see going on that are, some are being shared, some are not being shared. And, it's a time where a lot of confusion, but, when I think some people get thrown off when they see these figures that get thrown out there. And I think that's the
That's right. You don't know what's true. You really don't know. There's not any transparency right now. And, our state law right now doesn't allow us, the athletic department, really to have any connection around that. But we would like to have more opportunity to kind of guide students. So I think there's some legislative revision in the works that Danny and I are hoping will come through. Because these are 18, 19, 20-year-old young people. That's young. I've parented kids at that age and they're still kids. And this is big stuff. So I'm sure it will settle out. College athletics is something that it's just part of who we are as a country.
Yeah.
So it'll settle out, but I don't think it's going to be tomorrow.
I'm interested in your thoughts on this next question, and I really appreciate you joining. How have you and President Boyd worked to build back the trust of the fan base? And I mean that in a sense of, besides putting a good product on the field or on the court, there's just a lot of people wavering in a sense. So
let me see if I can address that and see if this gets at your point.
Yeah.
I think when Randy Boyd is just like my closest confidant as chancellor. I feel like he's my partner. So is John Compton. And when the issues came up last fall around violations, I mean, I immediately went to them and we were sort of a threesome in terms of strategizing about it. And I appreciate their partnership. And one of the things that when it became clear we were going to be looking for a new athletic director, one of the things I felt would be a strength for us in looking for someone. And you have to think about, you're going out to find an AD when look what just happened. I felt a strength for us would be, a selling point would be the absolute tight alignment of the chair of the board, the president, and the chancellor. That a lot of places that isn't true. And I just knew that was our best shot at getting a really outstanding athletic director. And I sold that hard to Danny. And if you hear him talk, he'll say that was to me. It doesn't report to the president. I report obviously to him, and I've used him. So for example, when I went out to search for an athletic director, people asked me if I had a search committee, and I said, yeah, it's the president and the board of trustees chair. And that way we were able to move quickly, keep things confidential. You didn't see leaks and all that kind of stuff. And so I hope that was the first bit of regaining trust. And even before we went out and hired Danny, I solicited input from all different groups, including donor groups, coaches, wanting people's input on what should we be looking for and what are you feeling? What do we need in the athletic department? So I think those were, I hope, little building blocks. It obviously helped that we had a winning season this fall. And I think the love that you see from the coaches towards their players in football, I'm talking about right now, and the players towards them, they're on social media talking about how much they love what they're doing. And we didn't see that so much more. So I hope I feel people tell me, I go all over the state, representing the university, and people always want to talk about athletics. And they say things like, thank you. I'm just so grateful for where we're at. And even the most pessimistic say, I'll just have to admit, I'm cautiously optimistic, like that.
Yeah.
But it's important that fans have confidence in their leaders, and then confidence in the coaches and what they're doing. So I feel that we are building that back. And I think the three of us, I keep them closely informed of what's going on. And as soon as, for example, Danny's revising you've heard about this, the ticketing in athletics and basketball.
Yes.
Well, both of those people are people who are going to call us about that. So immediately I said, Danny, we need to get in front of John and Randy and explain the whole thing. They were 100% supportive. And so that's more how I function, is let's keep them involved. And let's also pick their brains, because they're very smart business people. And athletics is a business in a big sense. So that
Sure.
alignment, I
Yeah.
think, makes this people feel more confident, like at least they're all in the boat together.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to just people want to see everything flowing in the right direction.
Right.
Within the athletic department, within the university as a whole, just because there is, and you know this, just because of the turnover that has happened over the last
Yes.
number of years,
Right.
and I
Yeah.
think that's key. And I know you can't talk about it, but you know the whole thing in general. But were you satisfied with how everything went over the past 10 months? In regards to how I know you're making the transition, but then you're also dealing with some things off the field. Were you satisfied with how that went and leading towards the future?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy with all this, with the performance in athletics on and the culture that's they're building over there.
Right.
I'm thrilled with that. Obviously, I wish we didn't have this whole NCAA thing going on.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be dealing with it. I think I'm proud of the way, I think we've done the right thing. I think I did the right thing from the beginning. Uh, I think we made the right call this fall when we said, you know what? We're not taking a bowl. We're not going to self-impose a bowl ban because we don't believe it's right. The students that would hurt are the athletes who are here who had nothing to do with the issues that came up. And so we said that publicly in the paper. And what happens from here on, I can't predict. I don't know. We're still working at it and trying to work. We're trying to cooperate, continue to cooperate, be good partners with the NCAA because we need regulations to some degree. Not as many probably as we now have a big thick rule
Right.
book, but we're working with them. And so at this point, I would say, do I wish this was all over and behind us? Yes, but we knew this would take a while, and so I feel we've done what was right.
Hey, that's all you can look for. What are
Yeah.
your what are your thoughts on the expansion of Texas and Oklahoma into the Southeastern Conference in the future?
Well, as one of the 14 members of the SEC who voted in favor of it, I think it's good for the conference. We are the best, strong, interested in coming, both of them. I think I have personal ties to both of them. I grew up in Oklahoma, didn't go to school there, but and I have a PhD from University of Texas and know a lot of people there. Now, that's not why I said I voted for it. I think it was a compelling case. I think it's going to attract our fans. Think about just the competitive, the new rivalries that will develop, and it will be able to continue old rivalries. So like Texas and OU, and probably Texas and Texas A&M, and I think it's really good for the conference. So I was happy about it and happy to vote yes, and it was a unanimous vote. So we're excited as a conference about it.
Last question. There was last week Ziggler, a just great young man.
Love that kid.
And such a good basketball player, and but a very humbled young man is the best
Yeah.
way that I can put it too. He suffered devastation, his family did, and I've seen this numerous amount of times covering this university, and also being in this state for a long time.
Yeah.
The fan base really came together.
Oh.
Your thoughts on all of that, and just seeing the amount of money raised, then they had to cut off the GoFundMe because it would have gotten further. Just your thoughts overall on that situation and how the fan base rallied.
It gives me goosebumps. I find it so moving. $350,000 in 24 hours. I don't know anywhere else in the country where the love of the alums and the fan base is as strong as it is, and that is evidence of it. To just instantly, so you might have gotten there at other places, but in 24 hours. And I think it's because he's had such a positive impact on our program. You look at him out there, all the players, that basketball team, they love each other. Same thing's true in the women's basketball team. And I'm sure we're going to see it in baseball and softball and so many of the others. But Zakai is just, I don't know him personally, but I've met him and I just love his spirit about what he's doing. And you see the energy and the positivity he brings to that team on and off the court. I saw just 2 days before they came down here, he and I think Euros were out with, I don't know, Big Brothers, Big something, a program, just
Yeah.
good people. And I remember, the students now are so involved in the basketball attendance. And they line up for those tickets 24 hours ahead and camp out. And 2 games ago, I think it was Santi and Euros who were out there handing out sandwiches.
Yep.
That's goodness. I love it. I love it.
It's just, I think it's the fun that Rick Barnes brings, and it's also, in my opinion, it's the basketball program has done a really good job of feeling like the players. I think that's the biggest thing,
Right?
Buy in to that basketball
Right.
program.
Right. And we all love Folky and just are going to be so sad when he's finally gone.
Right.
Just love him to death.
Well, Chancellor Plowman, I truly appreciate you joining us. Thank you for sitting down and taking
Happy to, Trey.
to do this.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful
Wallace.
time. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.